What's up? Welcome, my homicidal homies. Are we killing it out there? Because, I definitely am. Get comfortable. We're going to be talking about an insane man by the name of Wayn Gacy. This is a content warning. This is going to involve sexual assault and death. So if you're not comfortable with hearing about that or listening to that, let's skirt out of here, Anyways, so get comfortable, get a snack, chill out. Wayn Gacy, or the Killer Clown, was born March 17th in 1942 with an alcoholic and sexual abuser as a father. Kind of like recipe for a serial killer. He had grown into signs of sadism as he went through puberty. His first encounter with the law was in 1968 when he had become convicted of sexually assaulting a teenage boy under the charge of sodomy. He was sentenced to 10 years, and he was held at Iowa State Men's Reformatory, and he underwent actually a psych eval, and they didn't see anything wrong. He was released in 1970, and while on parole, he was arrested again under sexual assault charges, but they were dropped. During which time, his wife filed for divorce and got custody of the kids. He then became a successful contractor, owning his own business, luring in young boys to work for him, and bought a house in the suburbs of Chicago. He married again in 1970 and continued his clown activities as Pogo the Clown in schools, hospitals, and birthday parties. His wife, Carol, had complained about a smell of death coming from underneath their house and had found wallets of young men in his car. Why didn't she report this to the police? I really don't know, considering the fact that he continued on to kill so many people. They divorced in 1976. Before then, in 1975, actually, kids in the neighborhood had been telling Chicago police that a man by the name of John had been picking up young men in his car. Police had actually stopped dozens of men walking out of Gacy's house because of suspicion of a 9-year-old that had gone missing, but none said anything against him. In March of 1977, 27-year-old Jeff Rignall said that Gacy offered him marijuana and chloroformed him, and made him perform sexual acts on John. A $3,000 suit was settled, and Gacy was charged with only a misdemeanor. In December of 1977, Gacy was arrested again on charges of kidnapping with a deadly weapon and sexual assault. They were again dropped. Now we're getting to the good part. 15-year-old honor student Robert Peace was reported missing by his mother, who went to pick him up from his job and hadn't seen him. He was never seen alive again. He had actually been talking to Gacy a few hours before about a construction job. Police had become suspicious and asked John. He then denies, and the police generate a search warrant for his house with protest. Of course. During the search, they find items that belong to the deceased men. Police notice the stench of death in his house, but the defense files a lawsuit for harassment of a client. Gacy then is followed giving weed to a store clerk. He's then arrested, during which time he actually confessed to his own lawyers that he had committed 30 or something murders. All 33 of his victims were bound and made to commit sexual acts. While John is in custody, they obtain another search warrant and search his house. This is when Gacy admits to only one murder and claims it was self-defense. He led them to his garage where they find not one, not two, parts of 3 bodies. John later verbally confesses to 33 murders in a rambling, several-hour-long statement. Fun fact, during the interview, he actually referred to himself as Jack or John in the third person. He said he buried 27 of his victims in the basement, 29 of which were found there. Most of them had been shoved in his crawl space. 5 were thrown into the Desplaines, I don't know how to say it, I'm sorry. Desplaines River, which was suspected considering his car was towed close to those rivers multiple times. 4 were found in the river. 15-year-old Robert Peace's body was not, but Gacy still confessed to murdering him. They began a thorough search, and parents from places as far away as London were receiving death notifications. 15 are the most bodies linked to one person during the time of that investigation, and they found 29 just on his property. Gacy had only been charged with the murder of not yet found Robert. However, his jacket was found hidden in John's house. While bodies were being identified, John was charged with the murders of 7 young men, as well as kidnapping, deviant sexual assault, and indecent liberties with a minor. The state sought a death penalty, and as it was legal back then, Gacy pleaded not guilty after confessing to the murders. What? I know. Priest's body was then found. He was so unrecognizable they had to use dental records. Side note, police usually use dental records to identify somebody that is unrecognizable because DNA doesn't always work, so dental records will always be 100%. So that's why burning bodies, only teeth are never burnt. So they can always identify teeth, which is why some of these serial killers who burnt their victims are unable to get rid of them. And they're convicted. The Supreme Court indicted him with 7 murders, and Cook County indicted him with 26 more. His house was demolished, and his belongings were to stay in the storage for 15 years. His trial was January 7th, 1980. Due to the graphic nature of the trial, anybody under 16 was not allowed in the courtroom, which is why we can't get specific details of the trial because of the indecency and the graphic nature of it. Gacy's attorneys hoped for not guilty by reason of insanity, hence inside insanity. After 5 weeks of testimony from psychiatrists, police, neighbors, and acquaintances, the jury takes less than 2 hours to convict him of the murders of 33 young men. Gacy was sentenced to death, and he was put on death row. Defense attempted to appeal with a 72-page written appeal, and all 39 issues included were all denied. He spent 14 years on death row and was finally put to the electric chair. May 10th, 1994. Date, only 24 victims were able to be identified, and the other 9 more are in a marked unidentified grave. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed, me talking about John Wayne Gacy, but yeah. Can you believe it? I couldn't believe, hearing about this. He was arrested 4 times. And they were like, oh, he's fine. What? Anyways, hope you enjoyed. Thank you.